and welcome to another episode of Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. This is a really good episode tonight. You know, the holidays are coming. We're probably at home on vacation. We're probably with our partners a little more throughout the Christmas break. And you never know, maybe some of the communication lines may get a little wired, a little frazzled, but that's what we're here tonight to talk about. Emotional intelligence and how we can regulate our emotions. So we're going to get ready to level up, get ready to transform your communication, and you're going to have you'll realize you'll probably end up having some profound connections or elevated connection, meaning you'll feel a lot more empowered. So I have Dr. J.L. Adolph on here, and he is going to dig into some layers. So I definitely want you all to, if you all have any questions, make sure you log in and let me know what you all have on your mind. Also, this is very good for me. I have now reached over 100,000 downloads on the audio podcast. So actually it's 102,000. Let me keep it real. So please give your girl a 5-star review. I see all the beautiful things you were saying on YouTube. If you're listening on a replay, make sure and type replay in the chat notes. And I'll be right back.
This for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kiss goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, dog.
All right, let's get right into it. Today, I have a special guest. Some people who are in college may know his face, but if you don't, you're going to get to know him right now. He is multi-hyphenated. We talked about that. And he has so many dimensions, and I really enjoy his mind. So I'm going to bring him out of the green room. Hello.
Hello. Black queens getting a shift together.
You like that?
Hey, the queen song with the cornbread and greens. What? Oh man, this is about to be fire here.
Yes. And you know what? I'm going to give you a little tidbit. And people listening, this is also a tidbit for you as well. That song, he was actually one of the guests on my podcast.
What?
Yes. I knew him and his wife, and he raps. He's so much in the culture like yourself, which we'll talk about. But his day job, he said, oh no, Ursula, I like to grow money. So he is like a financial guru advisor. So I love seeing brothers that are in the culture, but that's not all.
Oh yeah. The man. And to the viewers out here, click and subscribe. She got 102,000 viewers. Let's get that up to 200,000. So let's go. Let's make this happen.
I know it. I love that. So speaking of music, before we get into everything, can you tell everybody about your dad cipher and the culture and how much you're into our music?
Oh yeah, well, the Dad Cipher is a hip-hop therapeutic writing program. It's actually officially titled Dad Cipher Remixing the Dad Narrative. So what I do is help dads to basically take control of their narrative. One, by realizing that their story is what shapes their consciousness. Number two, realizing that they should separate themselves from any problems and that sort of thing, because in the sense of they are not the problem, they are coping with the problem. And then last but not least, then I help Dash to remix their narrative. Because the dominant narrative about Black men is deadbeat, dominant narrative not providing, that sort of thing. And these are narratives that's being force fed through media and various sources. So I encourage all the fathers that I work with, let's heal from those wounds. Let's do
Yes.
therapeutic writing. And then let's take control of our narrative.
I love that. I believe we do control our own destiny, and that goes to controlling the narrative. So
Mhm.
the majority of my listeners are women, but
Okay.
the ladies who are listening, there's some man in your life. So this message, it doesn't matter. This can transcend across the spectrum. That may be an uncle, dad, son, nephew, brother, husband, part, it doesn't matter, cousin. And while you're listening to this, you can also share the video with them because this brother's gonna drop some gems. Definitely. Definitely. So when you have these talks, how are your people who are listening to you, the young scholars that you talk to, and you can talk about that if you like. I didn't know, but how do they absorb it?
Well, it's hard to say how some people, absorb it. You hope that you just. All I look at myself as a sower, like what you do here, a sower of knowledge. You just dropping those seeds, and you hope that it'll catch on and sprout and grow and that sort of thing. Much of what we do as parents, we just try to drop seeds, drop jewels, and some things we hope to pick up. Now, I will say that a lot of the men and that I have worked with, and a lot of my women students that I work with as a college professor, has said that my lessons on emotional intelligence and using writing as a therapeutic process has helped them to sort of to help them to heal. It has prepared
Really?
them for career readiness, and they have said that it has helped with their not only their career relationships but also their personal romantic relationships and family relationships. I think writing. I think people underestimate the power of like hip hop therapeutic writing.
Mm, that's interesting. Have you ever gotten any pushback? Like, I don't want to write. Because the reason why I asked that is when I first started therapy, I was never a writer. I just was not. I didn't like it. But I
Yeah.
love to read. And so my therapist suggested that you journal. Ursula, you should
Hmm.
just journal. And I don't know. And I did it. But then when I did,
Yes. Yes.
game changer.
Yes, here's the thing, and I would say this. Unfortunately, many Black and Brown people have had been traumatized by our K through 12 system when it comes to writing.
Why
And
do you say that?
well, I would say this. I would say for the most part, what the writing system or the traditional English has been taught in such a Eurocentric way that is it
Mm,
doesn't take into account like or oral traditions. It doesn't take into account the beauty of the different languages and culture. And for the most part, what's highly valued and what's called the literary canon is predominantly dead white men. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my Twain. I love my Faulkner and that sort of thing. But sometimes when you look at Gabrielle Marquez, or if you look at James Baldwin or Toni Morrison, a lot of times these are the texts and books that are put in the banned section and that sort of thing.
mm.
So if we're banning those forms of expression, how are we then going to teach writing that tells the student suppress your voice and emulate a voice outside of your culture? That is That's
Wow.
intellectual violence in itself. So it's understandable why people have a problem with writing. But that's what hip hop therapeutic writing is all about, you know.
Wow. Can you go back to, you said that the literary canon?
Yeah. So basically, what's decided in at college in the English departments and that sort of thing, they have this thing called a canon, which is a list of texts or books that's considered the who's who of literature. And
Mm.
so in this canon, for the most part, you will find Shakespeare, you'll have Thoreau, you'll have all of these different people. And I'm not saying, and don't get me wrong, a lot of these writers are amazing. However, there has been resistance to adding, at least historically, to adding Black voices and brown voices and different voices into that canon. So what is considered American literature
Hmm.
or the premier literature is oftentimes dead white men. And so it
Interesting.
has an impact on the way that we teach students. It those things carry on because we have a lot of uh, brown people, Black and brown people, who believe they don't have writing skills. But what
Yeah.
you discover is, like you had said, in a therapeutic setting, you feel the freeness of free writing because you're not being judged. You're not facing the condemnation of, grammatical structure and that sort of thing. Don't get me wrong, some of those things are important. But when I'm helping people to write, I look at concepts, thoughts, and ideas because you can have a grammatically correct sentence, but it could be bland as bringing potato salad with raisins in it. And so you want to make sure that your ideas are rich and you said something.
And seasoned.
Yeah, you want to have season, and that's the beauty of Black language right there, because you could you're throwing some if some figurative language in there that's going to stick out, and oftentimes it's frowned upon, and I think
Right.
messes up our therapeutic space. Because imagine if you want to express yourself, but you're being told and being have parameters placed
Mm.
on how you can express yourself. So it's understandable.
It is. It really is. So let's go back a little bit. I love what you talked about this emotional intelligence and how you've heard that it it does help. Some people have said that it even helps in their relationships and how they
Yes.
communicate. So you know me, I'm gonna look up some quotes. Let me see if I can find it. It was very
Okay.
interesting because I looked up emotional intelligence, and
Yes.
this comes from mind.com. That
Okay.
emotional intelligence, or EI,
Mhm.
refers to one's ability to recognize and regulate their own emotion, be aware of what the emotions mean, and understand how it affects them and others.
Correct.
Emotional intelligence also involves understanding others' emotions as well, and that it requires that we differentiate between distinct emotions, label emotions accurately, monitor them. I have a question about that. And
Mm.
use this information to improve our thinking and decision making.
Yes, yes. By a great scholar, that concept of emotional intelligence was, coined by a great scholar named Daniel Goleman, Golman. So for those viewers who are watching, please go and read up on it yourself. And that sort of
Hmm.
thing. So Daniel Goleman, it was great. But I would say emotional intelligence, really for the most part, is in Black culture, really has been common sense in the golden rule and that sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah,
Wait, explain that. That's kind of, I just love how you word things. Okay.
yeah. So it's more common sense. I mean, because it's really based on five basic principles. And I know you have something like to show them to bring up on the screen, but it's basically five major concepts, and we could just talk about them briefly. The first one is going to be like self-awareness.
Okay.
And that's really being aware of how being aware of how your emotions, you know, impact other people understanding your strengths and your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is self-regulation, or some people would call it self-management. Is Are you able to regulate and control your emotions? Like some people say, hey, I just pop off, I just pop off. And if you're not able to regulate your emotions, that could be a problem in all relationships. The third one is motivation, because in motivation, it's really, for the most part, people think, oh, just feeling like I want to do something. No, motivation is having that discipline and drive to move forward, even when things are going poorly. Number four is empathy. And this one is a tough one, because sometimes in our communities, we do a lot of listening, but not a lot of understanding each other.
Oh,
And
that's
then last but
interesting.
not least, social communication. It's our social skills. How do we communicate? Are we productive? And when I think about social skills, I always say, how do you fight? And what I mean is, when the situations are hostile, what is your social skills? Do you walk away? Do you have to get the last word? Do you scream
Mm.
and yell? Do you throw things? All of these sort of things have an impact on, or it reflects our emotional intelligence. And truth be told, we all struggle in at least one of those areas. So if you're struggling watching this right now, hey, it's okay. The A lot of times emotional intelligence comes from the traumas that we
Yeah.
experience in our upbringing, and and that sort of thing. So as my therapist always say, and that sort of thing, it's not your fault that that this trauma took place. However, it is your responsibility to
Responsibility.
heal from it. So you have
Absolutely.
to do it. So
All right. I have so many questions. Let me go back to this chart. Let's see. Number one, with the self-awareness, let's see, people with high emotional intelligence can control their emotions instead of letting their emotions control them. Do you think that people's their ego gets in the way with that? Because I'll be honest, until I got into therapy, I never heard of self-awareness. I never knew it was a thing. I
mm,
can definitely say now,
mhm.
looking back, definitely emotionally immature.
Yeah, I think a
Definitely.
lot of us. I think see, a lot of it stems from what we experienced by observing our parents
Yeah.
growing up. I mean, because it's like five different types of parenting styles. Like if
Oh,
you had
really?
if you had an authoritarian parent, um, that is a parent that really kind of was making sure that you had strict rules, that you didn't question them, do as I say, and that sort of thing. I didn't
Mhm.
ask you to think, kids are to be seen and not heard.
Not heard.
That one. Then you have what's called the authoritative parents, and that's those that I hope that I try to strive to be later in my life. But it's like parents that set boundaries and that sort of thing. They have limits and that sort of thing, but they allow their kids some freedom to learn some things, but they set boundaries. Then you have
Mm.
neglectful parents that you know that for the most part the child has no feedback, and it's the parent that's always busy. The child that child is left looking later on in life for someone to give them feedback, and they don't really know how to express love and that sort of thing because they've never really had that. um Two more: permissive. You have the permissive parents that let their kids do what they want to do.
Ah.
Let them do what they, and these are the hardest people to work with because their emotional intelligence is extremely low, because they become narcissistic. They believe that it's only them. And then
Yeah.
last but not least, and this latest one is a recent one, is the helicopter parent. The one
Mm.
that hovers over the child so that this child really, when they get older, they don't really know how to make decisions for themselves. And so
Mhm.
all of these different sort of the way that you have been parented for the most part impacts has a large impact on your emotional intelligence. Like if you saw mom and dad and they handle conflict in a way that someone was yelling and someone was screaming, you
Right.
would not be aware that screaming and yelling in a professional or even in a romantic relationship is a problem because you become deaf in a sense. You become
Mhm.
deaf to it. You don't really are blind to that. You think that it's normal, and so those are some things that impact it.
It's so funny you said that because while you were speaking, I was thinking about, um, remember when Whitney Houston had her TV show when she was married to Bobby? And they were
Yeah, to the
always
no.
screaming in the house. They were always screaming. And then I noticed how the little girl was screaming too, but they were just communicating with each other, but it was not just the normal banter, but it was a high level pitch and the
Oh
yelling, and you're right. And, I also think that when you have all of what the helicopter parent, the low self-aware, that the child has no autonomy
yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and definitely I can see about the how a child could turn it to have narcissistic tendencies or
Oh
characteristics.
yeah. Yeah. That's usually a only child type thing.
Hey, 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 I'm an only child. I see your point.
It's not all only children, but
Good cleanup. But real talk, I can't see that. Really. Yeah. Yeah. Because we're their only world.
yeah.
We're their focus.
Right. I mean, and it's like that. All of these things impact, and it really has a great impact on our communities and that sort of thing. And
Mhm.
I would say, especially for your audience and your demographic, it's helpful for all. Although I focus solely on men when I do my work I'm an English professor and I use that as my writing. But I would say emotional intelligence is going to be vital for both men and women, and especially for our young people that's going out into today's workforce. It's going to be it's they actually say statistics show that more job industry heads are looking for employees that with high levels of emotional intelligence. It's even
Really?
more value over IQ now because of how
Really?
that, yeah, because
That's
it's been a really, especially with the pandemic and that sort of thing, it's been a real challenge with emotional intelligence in or everyday relationships. So yeah.
Mm. So what has the feedback been when the young brothers that you talk to, or even the men, the
Mm.
adults, about how they have let's see, like even the self-awareness, or excuse me, the regulation part?
Well, you know what? The first and foremost, the hardest challenge is to get them to understand that there is an issue. Or that certain behaviors are an issue. And sometimes they will say, well, that's just who I am. But as we
Um,
begin to really begin to look at the writing, and we're beginning to look at that process, and they have a chance to reflect on it, then they're looking like, yeah, do I want to continue some of these relationships? And
ah,
and
that's a
it is kind of hard, and I would say because in Black communities, families are so sacred and so strong that sometimes the biggest issues that we have, especially in our romantic relationships, where mommy and daddy used to do that, but you don't understand, mommy and daddy was not perfect, and you
Mhm.
don't want to continue what's called uh, transgenerational trauma, and that's
That's
basically
right.
passing from one generation to the next. And sometimes we get caught up in that. So, I would say the feedback that I received is one is like they weren't aware of how their behaviors were impacting them in the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
romantic relationships, because again, we see this as normal. But I think that's the beauty of writing, because
Yeah.
writing is permanent on that page. And so you're going back and you're looking at that and you're reflecting. See, what we say,
Oh,
sometimes we can't see it, but that writing is permanent. So we know exactly where we are. That's one of
you you just unlocked something in my head. That is good. I love that. It's almost like it's like a snapshot of your time in
yeah.
your life. That's good, JL. I like that. That's really good. And how does it feel when you see that you've unlocked something in them? Like I just had this big aha moment. Like,
You
oh,
know what? That
yes.
always feels good. And you live for those moments as a professor or as an educator, period. To all of my sisters out there that may be educators, we live for those moments and that sort of thing. But I would say, it's important because sometimes we learn these lessons ourselves. So, very much so, a lot of times when I'm giving these writing assignments and these writing lessons and activities that's
Mm,
being used for this therapeutic healing, I found many times I'm preaching to myself. So,
yeah.
I would say the feedback is twofold, because sometimes when something unlocks in the student mind, I start looking at like, wow, I really need to reevaluate my own self. So, that's the
Mm,
beauty about, this therapeutic writing is beautiful. And I want to say with hip hop, because some of your fans may say, well, why is it hip hop? Well,
yeah.
one of the things that I would say with hip hop culture, more than any other genre of music, other than maybe the blues, hip hop has talked more about psychological and mental health issues than any other genre of music. They have talked about
Mm,
trauma and that sort of thing. And the beauty that separates, I think, hip hop from blues is hip hop kind of looks at it from a strength based model of being a survivor of that trauma. Whereas blues is like my baby done left me and I'm in that space of feeling blue. But hip hop is like I healed from that or I'm moving forward. And that's the beauty about having that, because you really want to have, it's okay to sit in those emotions, and it's okay not to be okay. But
right.
eventually part of the process should be moving towards healing. You know.
I never thought about it like that. I'm an old school hip hop head. I grew up off the golden age of hip hop.
Yeah.
I love it. Matter of fact, my first concert, I'm definitely aging myself, but I'm okay with that because I had the best time. It was the hip hop fest, and I think it was Run DMC was there,
Oh
LL Cool J,
man.
uh, Boogie Down Productions,
Mm.
Slick Rick. I mean, it was amazing,
N-
amazing.
Now, see what you just said there, KRS-One. I want to say he was one of the early artists that was talking about, mental health.
Yeah.
KRS-One, knowledge reigns supreme over everyone. So dope. And one of my favorite albums. And if you're a future educator that's in this group, you got to check out Edutainment. It was one of KRS-One's Boogie Down Productions dopest album that really talk about the impact psychologically that our education system was having on us. And believe it or not, that impacts our emotional intelligence as well, because these learning spaces are oftentimes traumatic, you know.
Mm. Can you peel back some more layers on that? I never thought about it
Oh,
like that.
most of a lot of learning experience. Let's go back to one of the earliest hip hop songs, "The Message," by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And in the verse, one of the first father and son dialogues in there, he's like, "My son said, 'Daddy, I don't want to go to school because the
School,
teacher's a jerk. He must think I'm a
think I'm a
fool.'"
fool.
And he said he might as well be a street sweeper. Somewhere in our education, it first of all, we have to realize that education really equips you to be only a part of the social position that you're in. That's going to blow some people's minds. If you're in a public school, they teach you to obey. The
Right.
focus is on obedience and that sort of thing, keeping you in your social position because they expect you to be the people that do the work and follow rules. Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
go to a private school, they're teaching you how to become leaders and they teach you to question things and that sort of thing. And the reason you can question things because you're being taught to have power or to step
Mm.
into positions of power. So oftentimes, even if you go to Malcolm X, like at a young age, he was doing well into the school system. And then his teacher was like, you can never become a lawyer, just be content being a carpenter. You work well with your hands. It's a lot of ways in which our education system can traumatize and basically kill our children's dreams. And that also impacts emotional intelligence. Because if you've been taught, like for instance, unfortunately, or women have been taught for the most part that they don't have a mind for math. And they will say that, and they had like a Canadian research that was like women are just don't have the mind for math. Now imagine if you're being fed that, how that may impact your emotional intelligence in terms of motivation. Can you be
Oh.
motivated to do those things? And, how would that impact your social skills when you get in an environment where you're expected to do basic arithmetic in your head? That has an impact. So, yeah.
I see how it came full circle with the motivation part. Because while you were speaking, I'm like, how could that tie in? But you're right. The
Yeah.
motivation part, you just give up.
Yes. Yeah. You'll give up or you become hostile and not even aware of where that hostility comes from. And it's
Mm.
really the frustration that you had in the classroom. So
Isn't that
those things.
something?
Yeah.
So I see how emotional intelligence can affect different facets of relationships. You just mentioned about 4, right? Since we've been speaking,
Yeah.
but it is all connected. It really
Yeah.
is. And of course, because this is platform is all about mental health and wellness. I love how you touched on how past traumas can affect the emotional intelligence as well. I
Yeah.
believe, or I know when there has been past trauma or unresolved that you can or tend to become emotionally stunted and you
Yes.
just can't or don't have the tools to get over that hump.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Which
Very much
mhm,
so.
yeah, and it can definitely affect relationships
Oh
amongst
yeah.
your partner or even with your peers.
Yeah, and I think, but you know what? What I find outside of partners, peers, and career, the one thing that the most devastating, at least for me, was the relationship that I had with myself. Was
Yes.
the most devastating that I would say because for the most part, I had a lot of negative self-talk, a
Mm,
lot of negative criticism, and that sort of thing. And I think it comes from the most part with upbringing and that sort of thing that you become to internalize. So the biggest reason for people to get into health is to preserve self. Because if you began with the self, then you could, it's kind of like when you're on an airplane, if the plane going down, they say, well, put your mask on first, and then you're
right.
able to help others. You can't teach a person how to love you if you're not
Mm,
loving yourself. You can't teach a person, you can't have empathy until until you begin to understand and love
mhm.
yourself. It begins with that journey of self. And that's why writing is so important because you have to purge some of that stuff out. You got to purge it,
Yes.
you know.
You really do. So, how can raising or learning more about emotional intelligence and how to regulating your emotions, how can that help deepen a connection with whether if it's self partner, peers, career, family?
Oh, well, I believe this. I'm a firm believer from a biblical standpoint that we give from our overflow. Our cup runneth over.
Mhm.
And if we expect to have a deepened relationship, whether it be romantic, career, that sort of thing, we have to understand that it begins with the overflow of ourselves. And
I
that's sort
love
of,
that.
we have to, if I feel, so put differently, if I feel negative and critical of myself,
Mhm.
then when I work with a fellow colleague, and they do something, I spew out negativity and criticism. If I'm with my romantic partner, I spew out negativity and criticism. If I'm with my child, I spew that out. Why? Because I'm giving from my overflow. You know,
Mm.
it is what I have an abundance of. I may not have like the quote unquote tools to be positive. So, sometimes kids will be like, Mom, why are you always critical? Or why don't you ever say anything good? Perhaps that was the only language that you've been given.
Wow.
And if
Yeah.
you don't heal from that, you spew you pour that toxicity on the other people.
Mm. So I believe the more one becomes a lot more self-aware, we almost can see the blueprint on
Hmm.
how and why we emote the way we do. And sometimes it can be from, like you said, like the blueprint of our parents or primary caretakers, and
Yeah,
just repeating, and that generational cycle that
yeah.
continues.
I mean, because when you think about it, when we're born into this world, for the most part, we've been given a sort of blank slate, you know.
Absolutely.
Um, and it's this brother, his name escapes me now, but he teaches at Morehouse. And oh man, his name, I can see his face. But anyway, he has a book called Balance, and it talks about identity construction. Here's the thing that I love about this work. So look this guy up. The book is called Balance. Okay,
Okay.
so here we go. So he had one of the best sayings. He said, "We have to think of ourselves in a sense as an empty vessel." That's
Yeah.
what we're going into the world. And he said, how our identity is basically our consumption of all the narratives that we have had, narratives
Mhm.
from our parents, narratives from our community, narratives from the media. And he said, basically, you shake that up, and that's your identity right
Oh,
there.
wow.
So, and he said most of our life we're trying to find some sort of balance to our identity. How much of this stuff is really who we are, or how much of this stuff have we been conditioned to believe?
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
It
That's when it gets
is.
scary.
'Cause you hear people say, like you said earlier, "That's how I am." Well, that's what I saw growing up. My grandmother did it, but a lot
Mhm.
of what we were taught, it can come from their survival mindset as well.
Correct. Yes. Yes, because a lot of, especially when you're talking about people of color, we've been forced to survive in this. We've been forced to survive in America, not thrive.
Yep.
Not many of us are thriving. And I mean, you know what? It's funny because we may be even thriving from an economic standpoint, but if we don't have that mindset,
Mhm.
we're still in survival mode, it still hurts. A book that I'm reading right now, Lisa Nichols' book, Abundant Life. Yeah, she had this great story that sticks to me. She was like, it was a man a young man who grew up and he only had two white shirts to go to school. And his
Okay.
mom would wash those white shirts every day by hand, just washing it, like, the suds, plunging it in the tub, all of that stuff, because you ain't have a washing machine. So the man becomes later on in life highly successful. When you look into his closet, he has 150 white shirts. He
Oh,
still hasn't healed. He can get shirts of all colors, but he's
wow.
still fixated on the white shirt. Why? Because that was the one. It is
Wow.
still a part, it's woven into his mind. Yeah.
Woo. That's deep right there. And it's real. It is real. And
Yeah.
just how we have learned behavior, I believe we can unlearn it as well.
Oh yeah, it takes work, but yeah, it takes work, therapy, journaling, all of those
Mhm.
things. Like Erica Badu said, you spend in liberation, you spend your life trying to numb that pain and that sort of thing.
Ah,
And that's you have to liberate your mind. That's what it is. It's a challenge, but
it
it's a
is.
worthy challenge. So for any listeners out there, especially, I love the concept of getting their shift together. I think of a
Yep.
car, and you have to shift gears if you want to move forward in
I
life.
love that.
You have to shift those gears.
I love that. Speaking from someone who has always had a stick shift since 19, no, 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 no. I've never had an automatic, but you're right. You can
Yeah,
stay stuck in that first gear, but you will get nowhere fast.
correct. Yeah.
And my car better work. I just got it out the shop a couple of weeks ago.
I was like, man, you still driving the stick shift? My
I have a
gosh.
6 speed, wait, 5 speed. Yep.
Wow, man. Yeah.
Still.
Hey, you got better skills than I do. I could not do it. Automatics for me. That's
I've
it.
never owned one in my entire life. Never.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know, right? So,
Yeah.
so can we talk about the event coming up with the
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, on December 16th, by Clark Atlanta University, I believe it's 660 Atlanta
I'll put it in the
student
show
move.
notes.
Yeah, student movement and that sort of thing. We're going to have an event called Let's Rap. Well, it's a double entendre because first of all, Let's Rap is going to be really how a toy giveaway where we're giving dads toys to get needy dads. We're giving them toys to give their kids, especially if they cannot afford them and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. And also we're hoping to encourage our fathers to be present in their kids' life. It's not about the presence,
Yeah.
under the tree, but it's being present. And so, we're really, talking a lot about, how do we become present in our life and overcoming the the challenge of, being that a provider role strain, where we just feel our role is solely limited to being a financial provider. Well, I would say with mental health and that sort of thing, we have to learn to expand that and say, I'm a provider of bedtime stories. I'm a provider
Love
of,
that.
walking to the park. I'm a provider of having conversations that may not make me comfortable, but I know that I need to sit and be present with my child. Those are some
Mhm.
things that we hope to accomplish. So yeah, so if you're in Atlanta area and you are a father, you don't even have to be needy and that sort of thing. Just come on down. You could donate a gift and just sit down and we could just let's rap about our challenges and let's come up with solutions to regulate our emotions and that sort of thing.
I love that you said about coming up with solutions because Black girls getting their shift together is always solution based.
Oh yeah.
Once we rip off the band-aid, but we need to have some healing solvents on what can we do to move forward with whatever topic we talk about.
Oh
So
yeah.
again, if you all are in the Atlanta area, I will put all the details in the show notes so that you can go. You will definitely get something out of this. JL and we were at an event a couple days ago,
Yeah.
and I was honored to be a part of the men's talk, but I learned a lot. What really got me too was the provider role strain or provider strain role.
Yeah.
That got me. And so JL is going to go deeper into what that means, but can you sprinkle a little bit of what that means?
Yeah, the provider role strain is, for the most part, it's basically saying that men, especially men of color who haven't had access to the quote unquote American dream, have been conditioned to be solely breadwinners. And in many cases, that breadwinner title has come with this toxic level of masculinity, because being a breadwinner winner also means sometimes being economically abusive and wielding power and dominance and that sort of thing. So I would say, even being a part of that breadwinner winner type is problematic. But anyway, but yet and still, to define our masculinity, we oftentimes we basically judge our masculinity based on how much we can provide. And when we are not able to provide for whatever reason, it causes a strain, psychologically, sometimes physically, emotionally. It places a great strain. And it leads sometimes to the point where men feel like, well, if I can't provide, I don't have any role in the family. So I'll isolate myself, or I'll become addicted to substance abuse, or I'll engage in high risk sexual behaviors, or that sort of thing, instead of really dealing with the issue at hand. So, though provider role strain, and it's all just the way we've been conditioned to see what it is to be a man. And that's why I said, one of the things that I would say for all audience, we have to be able to understand the difference between what society or family in our community say, and begin to really pick up the pen and author our own narrative. We really have to author our own narrative. And that's where hip hop therapeutic writing would be helpful, in many ways, because hip hop is all about asserting your identity. It's all about, having autonomy and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on therapy?
So, therapy, you know what? I would say this. Originally, my thoughts were it was white people stuff.
Me too. I just knew it was like, oh, black folks, we don't do that. That's a white person.
Right. Black people, we got Jesus. and don't get me wrong. My thing, I'm definitely, for those who may be Christian out there, yeah, Jesus is important, but also they help to create therapists. So
Absolutely.
So originally that was my thought, but I will say it took me going through a divorce and really going through some tough struggles with having my family being uprooted, and being it just waking up nights, tossing and turning, seeing that my life wasn't going the way that I perceived it and planned.
Right.
And I knew I was dying inside. And it just so happened, and I don't know if it's divine intervention. I don't believe in coincidence, but I was watching HBO, which is Max now. So I was watching HBO, and they had a show called In Treatment, and I saw Blair Underwood, and he was this character named Alex that was going through some of the same struggles that I was: hypermasculinity, growing up in the projects, all kinds of trauma and that sort of thing. And when I saw him go through therapy, it released some fear. It made me realize that I really am desired to be healed. And here's the crazy part. As I was going through the therapy process, and I'm 31, and I had experienced all kinds of lows as a young man. I mean, everyone has some moments of sadness, but I experienced some really deep lows, like almost to like suicidal levels, like at a very
Right.
young age, at 12, contemplating jumping out of the window at a young age. And as I was going through that, um, I discovered that I clinically diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And
Right.
then when I brought it up to my family, then it was like this secret. And it was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
that was 3 generations in my family. And I'm like, well, why didn't we talk about that? Why has no one, it was like this dirty secret. So I, in a sense, has broken the chain, especially with my kids and that sort of thing, and with the students that I work with, and spreading the word about mental health, because it shouldn't be something that's a dirty secret that we're afraid to say. We need help,
We do.
and it's important, you know.
I don't feel like we've even healed from slavery. I mean,
No.
we just had to keep pushing and moving through it, and now here we are in 2023, about to be 2024. But if anything, we could have used it back then. Of course, that would have never happened.
Oh
But
no.
those cycles have still continued.
Yeah, it's, as a matter of fact, it's a scholar by the name of Joy
Roasted grew.
DeGruy Leary. Yeah,
I
post
love
traumatic
her.
slave syndrome, and
Love her.
it's a fantastic book. The thing that it really hit me as a parent when I was reading it, because I was knee deep in being a dad, and then my
Right.
kids are grown now. The babies are 18, but here's the thing: it's an example in there when she said that she remembered taking her child to the bank, and her kid was like running around crazy in the bank. And it was this overwhelming fear that came out of nowhere, where she grabbed her child and was like,
Mm.
no, stand here by me. Now, her daughter, or her child, was looking around, and he saw white counterparts running around and that sort of thing. And they had freedom. But it
Mm.
stems from those slavery conditions of, if you didn't watch where your kid was going, that kid was liable to be lynched, hurt, raped, maimed. And
Yes.
that cultural memory still takes place. So what you find is Black parents being overly protective
Yeah.
of their kids. And I wouldn't even say it's overly protective, because I mean, we've seen cases recently, like at Dollar General, a kid accidentally took like a Barbie doll out the store. The mom was attempting to go back, and they had police put them
Oh,
all on the ground, spread eagle, and that sort of thing, which was terrible. So our kids are not safe to be free, and that causes a trauma and anxiety. So yeah, so when we talk about those conditions from slavery, I mean, I would say people of color, black folk in particular, we have historical trauma, we have
yes.
family trauma, we have community trauma.
Yes.
It's sometimes domestic violence, living in poverty. All of these traumas are built upon traumas. So, like I said, I think therapy. So, my opinion on therapy is that it's as necessary as any other form of medical treatment that you get. You want to check your blood pressure, you want to check your blood sugars, you have to check your mind, your mental health, because the mind controls everything. So,
Absolutely. And so speaking of therapy, we have somebody we can refer people to as well. Young
yeah.
Folk Psychological Services. And that is a live link. Everyone, you can just click right on it and you can open up to the webpage. You mind talking of like the young folk and how the name came up and all of that?
Yeah, well, Young Folks Psychological Services. First of all, it's important for the viewers out there to know I am an English professor. I just use Hipop Therapeutic writing.
Right.
However, my wife is Dr. K. Trailer Adolf, and she is a counseling psychologist, and she started her own practice, young folks psychological services. She helped tweens, teens, and young adults.
Mhm.
It's a space where she really deals with a lot of trauma. She helped relationships, like if it's mother child relationship strains, she deal with that, father child relationship strains. She does work with identity issues and that sort of thing. Any sort of angst or mental health, um, she pretty much deals with. And if she doesn't specialize in it, she will connect you to someone who can deal with those. But young folks psychological services, she's licensed for Atlanta, but not only for, I mean, Georgia, but also for other states as well. So if you're in New York or if you're in
Nice.
other places, hit up Young Folks Psychological Services. It's not that many therapists of color. She is one that will listen. She's open minded. And she's really about trying to empower kids. So
I
that's
love
what I would
that.
say that.
Yeah, it's like get to the kids while their brains are still malleable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she has this phrase like something. Well, I know Rayma Joy is one that she builds on, and then she said, "Your life and your choice, like your choices, should bring you peace." And that sort of thing.
Mm.
Your life and your choices should give you peace. I probably screwed this up, but if you go to Young Folks Psychological Services and look on the website, you'll find the correct phrase.
Right. And here it is again. So just click right on it. It's a live link, and you can get all the information you need. Last question.
Okay.
Who's your favorite rap group?
Whoa.
I knew I was gonna stump you with that one.
Whoa. Okay. And you know what? It's kind of dang, wait a minute. I think it got to be by reasons. Okay, so Dr. K said you deserve the best. You have your
Wait, let me sound smart like her. Hold on. You deserve the best. You do have choices. Your choices should bring you peace. Thank you, Dr. K.
Yeah. so so here's the thing. Wow. Okay, I guess you know what? I'll just put it out there. I'll say A Tribe Called Quest. My
Okay.
favorite group of all time. You know, the peanut butter and jelly of, you had Q-Tip, the abstract, and then you had Fife Dog that was down to earth. They were the
5 footer.
yeah, he was the precursor to Outkast, because really when you think about it, Q-Tip is very much like Andre 3000. Five Dog is very much like Big Boy. And then my third favorite group, and man, it's so tough, is of course Wu-Tang. I mean, come on, you gotta have Wu.
Okay.
So I would say A Tribe Called Quest, Outkast, and then Wu. Wu-Tang.
Does Boogie Down Productions get any okay, at least in the
Yeah,
top 10 somewhere?
you know what? Here's the thing. I would say, I mean, I view Boogie Down Production as KRS-One, because who else really rapped the Boogie Down Production? Miss Melody. I mean,
Right.
D Nice. I mean, so I would probably say I put KRS-One in my top 20 in terms of hip hop artists. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. But if you like top 5 dead or alive, I'm gonna I'll give you a real quick list. Top 5 dead or alive. Number 1, Nas. Number 2, people sleep on this brother, Rakim Allah. So you gotta have
Oh,
him.
yes, sir.
You gotta have Biggie, Pac, and Jay-Z.
Okay.
So yeah,
I like your
that's my
Mount
top.
Rushmore. Nice.
That's my top 5 right there. That's my top 5. Yeah.
Okay. What's your most fire bars?
Ooh. the best bars that I've ever heard of all time.
I'll be nice. I'll give you 3 choices or less.
No, you know what? I only have one for that. The best bars of all time. Check this out. I gotta go with my man, Inspector Deck from Wu-Tang Triumph. When he said, "I bomb atomically." Oh my gosh. I mean, if anybody listened to Wu-Tang Triumph and you listen to Inspector Deck open that part, oh my gosh. "I bomb atomically" is just so, that's a hip hop classic line.
I thought you were gonna say all of it.
Oh no, man. Oh, please, I can't spit like that. You're like, and then he said, "Mockery sees Socrates." And, you're doing these philosophies. Oh man, oh my gosh. And then, oh my gosh. I would do Deck a disservice if I tried to do his lyrics, but he is. Oh
I can take that. He's like, I can appreciate it, but I'm not going to spit it.
Yeah, that one, man, that gets the party started right there.
All right. So who's your Mount Rushmore of female artists?
Whoa, okay. Now, when I think about female MCs, you know what? You have to give it up to Queen Latifah and MC Lyte. Because I think Queen Latifah and MC Lyte really set up the foundation. I'm going to also put Missy Elliott up there on my Mount Rushmore because she was like so much of a threat on all. Plus, she was a producer and a singer. See, I go back with Missy's sister. You know, people they sleep on that. And then last but not least, on the Mount Rushmore has to be Lauryn Hill. You know, I mean, it's like when I think about Lauryn, she, even though she don't show up to shows on time.
I was about to say, she absolutely does not.
She does not. And you know, I happened to see young Lauryn when she first came out with the Miseducation. It was one of my earliest concerts. Outkast and Lauryn Hill. And
wait, how many hours did you have to wait for her to come on? I'm just curious.
No. This is when Miseducation first came out, so she was on time. This was back in the 90s that I saw Lauryn Hill perform.
Okay.
Outkast had just did the album Aquemini with I think Aquemini is the one with Elevators on there. So I think Outkast had did Aquemini, and Lauryn Hill had just came out with the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I'll never forget it. It was a dope show. Andre 3000 came out with a Tony the Tiger pants on. And some
I can see that.
It was super dope. He wasn't playing the flute back then.
He was getting ready for it, for sure. Oh, this is some good stuff. I knew you were going to come with the fire. I enjoy your mind. I just like the thought process, and I love to learn. So hopefully this will not be the last time you come on.
Oh, no.
Excellent. Any parting words?
Yeah, I want to say, hey, if y'all haven't subscribed and clicked to this channel, what's wrong with y'all? Why are y'all being haters? Like and subscribe. What else do you want? I mean, she's trying to tell you the chef. What do you want to be a neutral? Stop being a neutral. Chef. And if you get a chance, check out your boy Dad Cypher. I'm on YouTube, LinkedIn, on all the social media sites, except for Snapchat, because I don't know how that works. But other than that, that's how it is. But definitely support the Queen Ursula here, and let's get her up to 200,000. By what? Let's say by Christmas, by New Year's.
By New Year's, that'll be a nice New Year gift to start off the New Year with.
Exactly.
So, Dr. JL, you know what?
Okay, what?
You are a Black man that has his shift together.
This for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kissed goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti. Black girl magic, melanin popping. Whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift to